Hello, my name is Chris Bennett, and this is a presentation to Werner and Associates, my good friends, uh, my dad's good friends. So in 1984, he published this book, which has the cure for almost everything in it. Most mental illness, most physical illness, all addictions, and all violence, by identifying our stressors, which often are resentments, upsets, undelivered communications, etc., etc. And so my dad published this book after he did the forum, 9 years after he did the forum, the S training, which he did in 1975. And in it, he thanked Werner. Let's see. Werner Erhard for helping me find out what it means to go for it 100%. Special thanks. And Camille Barton, who read the book in manuscript and offered many helpful suggestions and criticisms. So, connecting the dots, recently I've come across a huge amount of information which helped me connect a bunch of dots, which I think are going to blow your freaking minds. Okay, so Camille Barton, after knowing her for several years, she said, well, I know Werner's daughter, and so I know that what she's saying was true. Okay. Go back a few years, and I'm going to tell you the craziest story, which is going to explain to you potentially why the assassination of Werner Erhard occurred, and a bunch of other assassinations. So my dad got poisoned by Mormons from our local church here in Riverside, and then he was here crippled in bed for over a year, us taking care of him, until he died a couple years ago, the day after Christmas. And it's a long story, which you're going to want to hear, because anybody who stands up and threatens a certain system, group of systems, they run into obstacles and problems. So, and it's all verifiable. So, here's my dad's yearbook. From everything I'm going to tell you, there's witnesses. So the people I'm going to talk about, they're alive. We can talk to them. Some of them will be happy to talk, and some of them will be scared to talk, but they need to talk. So your whole company, all of you, are owed at least $100 million, because I found out who's behind it all, because I kept going. All right? I kept doing what I learned in the forum and the S training, because I did it in 1978 first, and then in the 90s, 80s, several times. So I kept doing it and working with my dad and a number of celebrities. We had the similar things happen that happened to Werner. And you can Google it in maybe 10 of the cases. So some of them are in the news recently. I'm going to get to that. So I'm involved in the top 10 stories of the decade that have been in the news over the last few and 10 years. At least 5 in the last few years. So we'll get to that. Because of what I got out of the forum and the S training. The ability to see the bigger picture. The ability to sit and listen to people. The ability to see both sides of the coin. the ability to see alternative interpretations for the same reality, which most people think it's one way and it can't be any other way. So, listening to all those programs, thousands of hours, the 6-day, SELP, IFLP, volunteering at the advanced course, volunteering at the communication course. So, but let's get to the meat. Okay, where's the beef, Chris? All right, I'm going to get to that before we have an interruption. So, Camille Barton, she was thanked in 1984. So, my dad got involved. Let me just start with this, okay? My friend who I did the 6-day, the IFLP with, Ray Sutton, his family was really in the entertainment business. So, Terry Giles, you're going to have some insight into this. So, Terry Giles is a special person. I've been trying to reach him for at least 3 years. I asked Dina Skoko from the Los Angeles Area Center, who I volunteered with 35 years ago, and I think she was in my IFLP. I told her I've been telling her about this for over 12 years, but I'm getting a little confused here for a second. Okay, Peter Fonda and wrote on the back of here, we're going to talk about Jane Fonda, because I've been trying to bring her together and a bunch of people to see, ever since the company had these character assassination, I've been working on bringing all the forum leaders back together and trying to contact Harry Rosenberg and all you guys, and you've gotten my messages and we've spoken a few times, and trying to develop a healing project for the whole company. But now it's become real easy because I found out the truth behind the whole thing. So there's at least 20 high-level landmark education participants and staff people and forum leaders who I've been speaking to about this for the last 20 years. We're going to go through all that. Maybe not today, because I'm going to try to get to the meat, because I may get interrupted. And I may have to cut this short. So it's a long story, and I'm a little bit disorganized, but I'm going to try to go through the critical ideas. So Ray Sutton did all these programs. His family has been really big, is big in the entertainment industry. His cousin, so he introduced me to Tracy Reiner 10 years ago. Tracy Reiner was fully on board this project, and about creating a TV show about healing and getting healthy with my dad's book, and then I was going to insert the landmark education ideas. And I was trying to contact the people at the main company, but getting a lot of hang-ups. Okay. Let's see. No matter. Okay, it was all for a reason, all for good. So let me see. But let me get right to the meat. So Ray Sutton introduced me to Tracy Reiner. That's another longer story, which I already posted on my YouTube channel. Another different chapter. Okay, she was going to talk to Carrie Fisher. That's worth mentioning. Carrie Fisher did the S training and the 6-day. She did the 6-day or the ATP program right before I did, because when I got up there, the assistants on our team said, oh, Carrie Fisher was here on the team. So let's see. 10 years ago, she's best friends with Tracy Reiner, and her mom, Penny Marshall, and we were going to create a TV show about healing America and getting everybody healthy. And then Carrie Fisher died, and they found cocaine, heroin, and ecstasy. And Gary Marshall died 3 months before, while we were, talking about that whole project. And Carrie Fisher died a few days after Christmas, and then her mom, Debbie Reynolds, died the next day. No investigation or anything. So that derailed us for a few years. But I talked to Tracy Reiner again, and she's still on board. Which brings up the biggest news of all. Okay, so I was trying to bring everybody together a year ago again. Ray Sutton is my witness. And his cousin was lining up Paris Hilton. So his cousin is Michael Sutton. And he knows Paris Hilton really well because Michael Sutton was in General Hospital. And then he had a few restaurant, nightclubs. And then he had a big club of Hollywood insiders called Zenny, I think. And you can read about it in the New York Times and the LA Times about how Paris Hilton would go regularly. And then the Hollywood insiders would pay few $100 a month or something to attend, or, maybe more. So anyway, Ray introduced me to Michael, and he was all set a year ago to introduce me to Paris Hilton. That's still in the works, ready to go. She wants to heal. So this is the idea I mentioned to Terry Giles, is 10 celebrity men, 10 celebrity women going on a healing mission. So there's a crazy connection of Paris Hilton. So she was severely abused when she was a teenager. And now she's on a mission to heal hundreds of thousands of kids who are traumatized. So now I've got, my partners have this 600-acre ranch, 500 acres in Austin, south of Austin, where we're going to create a healing ranch. So I want to invite all of you to be part owners. My partners own it, and they're ready to do my deal. So I've known them for over 10 years. Hunting, Texas River Ranch, txriverranch.com. Really nice river, 2 miles along it. And I got a whole team of veterans and really interesting people out there who are interested in participating with us. Really great people. I've already sent an invitation to Zachary Levi. He's on a mission to heal the world by helping people deal with their incidents. Okay, so that's the cause of all the illnesses. Why? Because bad news stress turns off happy chemicals in our brains. Bad news stress turns off happy chemicals in our brains. Then we turn to junk food, nicotine, alcohol, and illegal drugs to turn them back on. So that's why I was getting pissed at the Landmark people, is because after 10 years of participating, I wanted to be a forum leader for like 10 years. No, after 20 years of participating. Okay, so I was in the potential forum leader candidates program. Steve Zaffron was leading it, our group. Andres Gomez was my coach, regular phone calls. Oh, that's right. Gail Legassick's son was in it. Dang. Just remembered that. So I talked to him about a year ago, starting to connect the dots. His mom, Gail, was my IFLP leader with David Wilson. David Wilson was in a TV show called The Bronx Zoo with Ed Asner. 20 years ago, he got Ed Asner on board our project for a TV show with this poster. It's a bunch of celebrities who are on missions. With Ed Asner was one of them. Okay, so 20 years ago, David Wilson was helping with this. He was in my IFLP together with Nicholas Pryor. Nicholas Pryor, I think, was in the Bronx Zoo also. He's been in a bunch of movies. So Dina Scocco was in that. So Terry Finn and Pat Finn. Okay, I talked to Terry Finn and Pat Finn about this project and invited them to participate just a year ago. I was lining everybody up. What I learned 20 years ago, and I've been bringing all these celebrities together with one super, super urgent thing. Millions of kids who are going hungry, getting bullied at school, some kind of problem in their family, too many incidents, symptoms of stress are difficulty concentrating with memory. Difficulty concentrating with memory. So that's in my dad's book from 1984. There's a list of symptoms of stress in here. And millions of kids are getting diagnosed as having a mental illness and put on sometimes amphetamines, which is stress in a pill. So that's what Carrie Fisher was going to help me, and Tracy Reiner. Carrie Fisher was misdiagnosed as having bipolar disorder, which has the identical symptoms as PTSD and identical symptoms as symptoms of stress in this book. The symptoms come from a list of symptoms of stress from Hans Selye's book, The Stress of Life, from the 1950s. He's the most important stress researcher of all time. So, back to why the character assassination. Let me get right to that because I might run out of time. Okay, so I got my dad's yearbook, 1978. And so he did the S training in 75. I did the S training in 78. Gee, that should be in here. I'm going to have to double check that. It was April, May with Stuart Emery. No, not Stuart Emery. Not Stuart Emery. It was Stuart Esposito and Randy McNamara. So Randy McNamara I've contacted at least 10 times, talked to him a few times. He hung up on me one or twice. Okay, in the last 20 years. Okay. Up at the 6th Day, Hal Eisen, Chuck Eisen, Ron Bynum. This is worth mentioning, Werner. I'm sure you remember. So my dad met you, and he offered to help with the 6th Day, and he maybe added some of his ideas to, I don't know how much it got redesigned or something, maybe minor changes. I don't know, maybe no changes. But anyway, he and Ron Bynum did at least an hour of video with Janet Siegel, who used to work at the Pritikin Longevity Center. And so I've got one of those videos. There's 2 videos, 2 tapes. I've got one of them here. I hope I have the other one somewhere. Okay, so they talked all about health, and Janet Siegel had been hired at the Pritikin Longevity Center, and my dad was having an affair with her. Okay, so it's going to get crazy, the story. Okay, so this is some of the background, though. So Chuck Eisen was there. So in this yearbook, I think I have 1977 too. It's red, I think. Okay, and either this one or the other one, I find Landon Carter. So my dad did one of his programs. And Elise Slifkin. So one thing that's critical to tell you, Werner, because of your impact on my dad, you had my dad like pretty much birthed the longevity field. Kenneth Cooper, I haven't looked into when he started. Okay, but the top, longest in operation, most famous healthy living experts like Dean Ornish, who started in the 90s, when they were in medical school, my dad was the founding medical director of the Pritikin Longevity Center, and it got on 60 Minutes, where people could go in there into a beautiful hotel for a month and exercise and eat right and bring their stress down and get off all the drugs. What kind of business do you think that's threatening? So today, military expenditures are $1 trillion a year, or $1.5 trillion now. Healthcare expenditures are $5 trillion. I think it was Pfizer and one other company are now up to $1 or $2 trillion in valuation. The first time a drug company did in history, and I saw it right on the news here. I got it recorded a month ago. The news guy told the whole truth. The reason why they're earning so much money is because they don't cure anything. People just keeping the drug every day for high blood pressure, hypertension. Oh. So around 2000, I started doing all this research at UCLA, updating my dad's book. I found out hypertension is a symptom of toxic stress overload, too many incidents, too many post-traumatic stress. So what's going on, and it's in my 100 pages of excerpts from the research, is that this was in a book from 100 years ago, Temple University professor's psychosomatic book. It says, a multitude of symptoms, and they use labels for, but then it's got one underlying cause, which is life problems. So that's in my 100 pages. So the Rockefeller Foundation did a study right after World War II, 1950s. University of Colorado at Boulder, where my cousin's father was a professor of medicine for the last 50 years, 40 to 50 years, professor of psychiatry, so he agreed with my ideas. Let's see. So, stress, toxic stress. So that's what I've been working to bring together, all these health experts with the forum people. Oh yeah, and if you spend $1 trillion a year on healthy living solutions, you would create jobs in every community. Check out Pritikin.com. 100 million Americans go to a hotel for a month, exercise, eat right, take seminars where you learn about stress and learn how to identify your stressors. They're very painful. Okay, so Werner Earhart, my hero. Seriously. Okay, I contacted all those people because, well, I like them all a lot. So I wanted to be doing the same thing, but I could never rise up, and I didn't know why. But I eventually found out, and that would enable everybody to become a forum leader in their life, and we certainly need a lot of them to lead these programs. So $1 trillion a year on healthy living programs will create jobs in every community. I've already, sent the proposal to 5 presidents. I've met two of them. I got it through to 5 presidents and their team. But the door got slammed. So it's called citizen diplomacy. Landmark education programs create citizen diplomats. Okay, but look at what happens to citizen diplomats. Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy Sr., talking about peace, John Lennon, Michael Jackson. Oh, yeah. There's a whole chapter in here about Michael Jackson from Carrie Fisher, where she said that her dentist, the one that accused Michael Jackson of molestation, confessed to her that it was all a bunch of baloney. Page 61. Dr. Evan Chandler, a very strange character. Why did they do that? Well, maybe the song Heal the World, make it a better place for you and for me and for all the human race. And he brought a bunch of celebrities together, started messing with those celebrities, making them want to heal the world. No more war. Who would be against that? Okay, I'm going to get to that. Let's see. Should we interject this? Really interesting stuff. Right after 9/11, George Soros. Okay, right here. 6 months after 9/11. 9/11 is a really traumatic experience for everybody, but it creates a really special opportunity to realign everybody's plans and expectations and to a better world, which we are planning right in here. Page 149. Traumatic event of this kind affects people on two levels, the instinctual and the rational. If the trauma is strong enough, the two levels may become disconnected. And this is an opportunity. 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 So I'm connecting the dots here. Let me get to the horror story. 5 harpies. You know what a harpy is? Somebody that is really good looking in parts of her, but then she's got these nasty talons and she comes in and rips your flesh, steals your money, etc., etc. So my dad got it S training, 1975. Nathan Pritikin was leading programs up in Santa Barbara. People would come in, exercise, eat right, get off all the drugs. My dad said, whoa. So the S training made him look around. Innovation. Pause it for a minute. Okay, so regarding Werner Erhard and his ideas birthing the alternative medicine movement. So if you watch on my YouTube channel, you can hear Dr. Drew Pinsky confirmed it. So he started out in the 1980s in Southern California with a radio show called Love Line, where I grew up, and having people call in and ask questions about sex, young people mostly. Okay, I think. And anyway, he's on Fox News as a medical host, especially here in Southern California. Internet, CNN, all of them. He had a job and he's on them regularly. So I called into his show 3 times. One time I called in and I said it was about most illnesses being caused by toxic stress and post-traumatic stress and incidents, and he agrees with it because I have his books and he writes that in different ways. Okay, so addictions, etc. So, but on dementia, he denied it. He said, no, I've met people that were in the military and they didn't get dementia. They got dementia, but I'd asked the family and the family said they didn't have any stress. They always said they didn't have any stress. Oh, well, like Jack Schropp, he was one of my favorite former leaders. I think it was the 6th Day. one of the top ones. Awesomely funny, really interesting. But you notice how he was all stiff all the time, emotionally, like serious. Okay, um, Vietnam veteran. Okay, so that's I've been working with the creators of the concept of post-traumatic stress, talking to them, communicating with them for 22 years. They know how to cure the problem, and it's right in alignment with your programs. So I've been trying to bring all of them together for the last 22 years, and every time I get close, something bad happens. Okay, we had a long list. Okay, I've had 3 people I was trying to bring together who are famous get accused of the same thing Werner did. Okay? Similar. Same crime, different scenario with adult women. Okay? And it brought them all down. Crash, slash, and burn. Divide and conquer. Made them all quit their jobs. Okay, I'm going to get to that. All right. So, but all this enabled me to connect the dots like 100%, especially since I had a friend who was in the CIA under JFK. So this will be very interesting to the attorney. I'm blocking on his name now. Who this message is to? Excuse me. He was in the Vietnam War from 1970 to. He was in the military from 70 to 75. Okay, so my friend Erwin Pardue was in the CIA under JFK. He was the CIA liaison to the White House. So he was involved in the CIA for the next 5 presidents or something like that. So I got to know him in the 1980s until he died in 2004 or so. And I learned from him and his brother and his friends about the organization that does the character assassinations. So his brother's still alive. His friend may still be alive in LA. Okay, so to confirm all this, so his brother's still alive. Look it up, Chuck Pardue in Georgia. ChuckPardueLaw.com, I think. He was a military in the Vietnam War. He was in the Vietnam War. Military JAG. Okay, so the veterans, a few veterans who are involved on the wrong side here, and anybody who's wrong on the wrong side, this invitation them to change sides and be the hero. You're going to get a lot of money. You're going to get a lot of positives. You're going to be the hero to the whole world. Who would be against people healing? It's beyond comprehension. So, but there's one person who would understand all of this, but unfortunately we lost him, Richard Condon. But so Richard Condon worked for an organization called Civitas, no, something like that, with this attorney. Now I'm blocking on his name. That was before he worked for Werner, and that organization has been battling the same organizations that I'm referring to. So they still are, and the founder, I called him 6 months ago, 3 months ago, but my communication seemed to be getting blocked. But we'll get through to him. So I talked to Richard Condon's twin brother about a year ago about this. Let's see. I met with Richard about this 20 years ago when he was alive. My projects invited him to participate. With Steve Wynn's son was there, David Pascal. Because he had done the programs. Let's see. So back to the worst shit that's going to blow your mind, and you can confirm it. You can Google almost everything that I'm referring to, or I can show you the proof. So fact check, please fact check. It'll help you comprehend. So this is a really important book here. So the heart of Hollywood. So Ray Sutton, as I'm saying, um, he knows there's a long list of people that participate in Landmark that I've been calling about this for the last 20 years. Demian Lichtenstein, he agreed to participate. He has the same vision of global healing. I'm sure you've gotten his book and movie, Discover the Gift. I started talking to him over 10 years ago. Michael Beckwith is in the movie. I met Michael Beckwith over a year ago. Gave him my proposal. Gail Legasic goes to that church. Clyde Terry is a retired LAPD that's the bodyguard for Michael Beckwith. I talked to him, and he's interested. Pat Finn attends the church and does their announcements. I talked to Pat Finn about it, about being involved in the filming. As I said, Pat and Terry were in my IFLP 20 years ago or so, over 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Michael Beckwith is really good friends with Oprah. Oprah wrote a book called What Happened, which is all about the cure for post-traumatic stress. What happened to you? Dr. Bruce Perry, I started communicating with in 2008. He's one of the top experts in the world on post-traumatic stress. 30 years ago, he created a program with Rob Reiner called I Am Your Child, which is about healing all the traumatized kids. You can find an excerpt on my YouTube channel. Their mission was you can heal the whole world if everybody deals with their incidents by doing be-withs. No, he didn't say that. Okay, but that's the cure, okay? So the be-withs from the 6th day, if you sit there for an hour, how long did we do it for? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Okay, and then you write down everything that comes up, and then you go around and, oh yeah, I stole candy. Okay, there's big incidents and there's small incidents. At that time, I had amnesia from my childhood, and because there was some violence incidents when I was growing up. My dad had an anger problem because they work you to death in the medical system until you have nervous breakdowns and lash out at everybody around you with those. And that's why the Kaiser nurses were just striking here in Southern California. My roommate here, she almost died because she had Kaiser, and I had to take her to Kaiser in Fontana a couple months ago, and she almost died right in front of me because of the horrific care. And the striking nurses were outside, and that's a whole nother story. I think that's on my YouTube channel. Okay, so, but why is she almost dying? Because she's depressed, because she got incidents when she was a little kid, like a bunch of them, which I'm not going to mention. So, let me get to the really crazy stuff that you can Google. Okay, I've had like 10 deaths of people who were funding me or going to fund me or working with me or going to work with me. Some of them are in the news. So my stepmother was going to, my dad had loaned her several $100,000 for her big ranch up at Paso Robles. She was struggling to keep it. And then unbeknownst to us, she legally grew a whole crop of marijuana. But then somebody started working for her, helping. And then he grew way too much, which was going to get her in big trouble. And when she protested, he punched her in the eye. You can see the picture of her with a black eye in the news. Then it got worse, I could imagine Nicole. Okay. My dad talked back to her and she smacked him. Okay, so um, she doesn't. Okay, but he would, she wouldn't do something like that unless like somebody hit her in the face, and then she said, "Listen here, dude, you better get the fuck out of here, or you're gonna be in big trouble." And then he continued, and he didn't leave. She might have so she said she shot him in self-defense. The SWAT team showed up, and then it was a 10-hour standoff or something, and they burned the house down, shot stuff in there that started a fire. So, and then she ended up in jail, and she died 3 months later. And then all the money that was left in the estate ended up sucked out against our, it was all criminals in the criminal justice system. So Bruce Perry is one of the top experts on post-traumatic stress. In the 1990s, she worked with Dr. Perry to create like a registry for child abusers and track them for the rest of their lives. But unfortunately, no treatment. Okay, so still no treatment. Oh, put them in jail, child abusers, no treatment. Okay, I'm going to tell you, I'll explain that one in another video. Okay, because I found out why. All right. Totally messed up people don't do anything with their lives. They sit around and use all kinds of illegal drugs to feel better or eat until they die. So anyway, let's get right to the crazy because I might get interrupted again. Let's see. So my dad, let's see, should I start with this? All right, let me start with this. So he did the forum. After 30 years in the entertainment business, PR person for Oprah, the Beach Boys, the Doors, Neil Diamond, Lou Rawls, Ricky Nelson. Ricky Nelson and I grew up together. So when he was starting out, let me mention, so after 30 years in the business, he ended up getting really depressed. And so he had to take a break from work, and he went on this, he tried all kinds of, the doctor gave him drugs, didn't work, he got worse. Then he went through the forum. Ray Sutton told me this. He didn't include that in the book for some reason, but he also went to some yoga thing, which sounded really terrible. This is in 2003. And his son, Michael, took him on the whole journey of healing his depression. Okay, but there's something he wrote in here that explains the assassination of Werner. Okay? Peter Fonda on the back. Jane Fonda helped create the concept of post-traumatic stress with Shad Mishad, a Vietnam veteran, Dr. Charles Figley, a Vietnam veteran. They were both in a MASH unit in Vietnam. Then they worked with John Kerry and Bessel van der Kolk to create the concept of post-traumatic stress because Vietnam veterans were coming back and they were getting diagnosed with schizophrenia and all kinds of weird stuff. Oh, you're having hallucinations? You just came back from Vietnam from killing 30 people? Well, it must be schizophrenia. So they had to fight and fight and fight, and they made it happen. Now, ironically, 20, 40, almost 50 years later, there was a party, and Jane Fonda, Rob Reiner, his wife, Nick Reiner, and he was misdiagnosed with schizophrenia and put on a bunch of drugs, when in fact he experienced severe incidents growing up. I did a whole video about it. Okay, so adverse childhood experiences. So then Nick Reiner killed Rob and Michelle Reiner. So they were both at the I Am Your Child event, the parents. Maybe Nick had just been born. Okay, and he said it was all in his videos. He spoke to the governors, and then he talked about, we're having a event called I Am Your Child, and President Clinton's going to be there. And Schwarzenegger, a bunch of them. Billy Crystal. Okay, Billy Crystal was at the party. Okay, Jane Fonda should have known better, but she probably didn't know that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia because these things are kept secret. Now, again, I've been trying to heal that family for 10 years. Rob Reiner's on my poster because I saw the I Am Your Child thing, 30 years ago. So, right there. He's right up there on the poster. So, so this is important here. So, as he was, just getting started and he was starting to get some celebrity clients, I got a call from a friend at the William Morris agency one day, page 69, and he told me 2 guys from New York wanted to meet with me at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I agreed. I loved the Polo Lounge bar in the hotel and felt real Hollywood whenever I was there. The 2 guys I met, I never wanted to see again in my life. One was a splitting image of Edward G. Robinson, and the other looked like Man Mountain Dean. I don't know what that is. They were very pleasant, but kept calling me kid. I was informed that they were the ones who really managed one of my artists, and what was I doing with their, quote, boy? I told them, in all honesty, that I was unaware of any past commitments to other managers by any of my clients and asked how we could resolve the problem. They had an easy solution. We would become partners. I would do all the work and they would get half the money. They also asked how my wife and kids were feeling. The only thing I instantly knew was that I wanted no part of these guys, and the word mafia kept spinning around in my brain. Once in, never get out. No way for me to get free, not in this lifetime. William Morris. Now, interestingly, my mom was in multiple primetime TV shows as a professional musician, playing the marimba and a bunch of instruments back in the 1950s. And she ended up with 2 William Morris agents. Fortunately, or unfortunately for them, they died in a plane crash. Then she met my dad a year later or so. So, let's see what it say. To never get out. I had a friend in the record business who used to be a hitman for LA's #1 gangster. No problem, he told me, if he asked a favor of #1 on my behalf. Even if you're getting the favor, it's my debt, he said. I couldn't understand why he would do such a major thing for me, except I was the guy who told him to write music rather than produce it. His first album was a hit. He thought he owed me. I met with LA's #1 man at his request. He had his right-hand man with him who looked like a real gorilla. They told me, quote, kid, you have no enemies anymore in the world. You have no enemies anywhere in the world. In a few days, I got a call from one of my East Coast friends, the William Morris people. He told me how wrong I had been. He told me how wrong I had been in my evaluation of what he wanted from me. He said there was no problem between us and that I would never be in trouble again, no matter where in the world you are. Quote, I didn't know I was in trouble before the first time we met, which they assured me was never the case anyway. I felt comfortable that I had a protector even though I never got a call to repay the favor of protection. I have always wondered if he had to pay off the debt in LA's number one man. 2. I did get a call from number one a year later when I was running the talent division of MCA Records. Could you send that new Elton John album to my granddaughter? It's her birthday. Elton John never had an album of his delivered so fast or with so much appreciation. Okay. Mafia. So, what was I doing with their boys? The boy. Okay, so did you mess with the boy of the Mafia? So what I've learned subsequently is the Mafia, oh, and I have lights that I have to turn on here, pretty much owns all the celebrities. So it's a Mafia-owned community. And so the Mafia owns creative artists. They're all Mafia people. I mean, they don't sound like Mafia people, but they're like Mafia tools, Mafia associates. I don't know all the details behind the scenes. I just know what I've been told. So my friend in CIA was part of that whole system. Okay. CIA, you don't say they're Mafia, but they're part of the system. So let's see. When you get all those celebrities like, let's see, John Denver, Looking for Space. Okay, I heard that a bunch of times when I was up the Sixth Day in the movie, the Sixth Day movie. Really awesome and inspiring. Okay, so let's see. And I heard it a bunch of times since then. So now, interestingly, flash forward, one of my business partners, who I've known for 35 years, he's got a bunch of environmental technologies which could change the world, reduce the amount of oil that's needed radically. And he's had a bunch of sabotage too. And he spent 2 weeks with John Denver in Hawaii. And John Denver was going to help us with our projects. And then John Denver died in a plane crash. So, one of those weird deaths. You can talk to my friend and he can confirm it. Maybe his family members can confirm it. I don't know. My friend's still alive. So his wife, ex-wife, Nick is his name, Nick DeSantis. So his ex-wife, also I've been talking to her for over 10 years. She's a good friend of John Paul DeJoria, the Austin billionaire. Tracy Reiner also talked to John Paul DeJoria about our project. She's also a good friend of Dean Ornish. Dr. Dean Ornish, I have his books here about health, which says stress is making us all sick. So I've been inviting Dean Ornish to work with us for over 20 years. He's gotten my communications. He's on board her project, and therefore he's on board my project because she's part of my project. Okay, so. Did you mess with their boys? So if you start like bringing all the celebrities together to feed all the hungry kids, and then your company starts birthing these troublemakers that want to save the world, make peace in the Middle East. All right, so you had to go down. Now, if they just kill you, then your company keeps going on and everybody's inspired by your Holy Ghost that haunts them. But if they slander you, then they traumatize and mess up everybody at the company, and then it falls apart slowly, and then it almost goes bankrupt. Okay, so, but it can all be reversed. So I know how to reverse it all. So I know how to bring everybody together, explain to them what really happened. Everybody's going to be owed $100 million or more. Probably $1 billion. Think about the health cost. So like I told our friend that I keep blocking on his name. Okay, I just talked to him a few days ago. Is that cancer, like 10 of them have died from cancer that I was contacting and begging and pleading them to participate in, come together and heal their grievances and, tap into their value and, Herb Tanzer, Beth Goodman, met with them a bunch of times. They were interested, but I kept encountering all kinds of obstacles. So, let's see. For me, it's like they can't work on their own. That's the bottom line. They can't, like, Werner started the whole thing alone, I guess. But he had a team, and very soon he had a big team. So he had enough, pizzazz to create a big team quickly. But all the other forum leaders, they left traumatized and broken. Incomplete. That's my analysis. Anyway, let me get to the really crazy stories. Okay, so so my dad got involved with Pritikin around 1775. Yes, training. Got really into it. Then soon after, 5 harpies. Beautiful women. Extremely beautiful. First one may have met him in the forum, in the S training. When, my mom did the S training when my dad did it when they were married, and I was around 10 years old, 11 maybe, and we had a lot of family problems. Okay, he could have come home and healed the family, but he met this lady, Beverly, should I say her last name? So it's right in this book here. So I think they're all in here. Almost all of them. The women. Okay, so first one had an affair. Okay, I'll just use first names for now. First one had an affair, broke up the marriage. Maybe before the divorce, soon after, she showed up at our house with him, drove up the driveway, and my mom flipped out. Said, "You get the hell out of here." Okay, so ruin the marriage. Divorce. Next one, Arlene Erb. Oh, I said a last name. So she got him involved in doing cocaine. At the same time, she got Robin Williams involved in doing cocaine. Robin Williams had just moved there. And so Arlene was friends with Robin's wife, and got them all together to do cocaine. My dad got hooked on cocaine. So they would have parties at the house in Manhattan Beach, and somehow they left it around somebody or one of the guests, and me and my friend John ended up doing cocaine at 12 or 13. Okay, it's gonna get crazy. So that was her. You know, Robin Williams ended up having a big problem with cocaine. I'm sure you've heard. She may have been involved in starting him on it. My dad eventually quit, probably within a year. He was doing it at work, and somehow she told him, or he figured out, I can get it as a doctor. So maybe she told him to get it. Anyway, that was the next one. Next one, Vera. Let's do Janet next. Okay, Janet, she got involved and started working at the Pritikin Center, Pritikin Longevity Center. She would come to the house. She would do Quaaludes. She would smoke pot, share it with us, 12, 13 years old. Okay, this is over a few year period, I think. She also went up to the 6th day and did the video with Ron Bynum. I got that. She's really nice. I kind of had a crush on her. But Quaaludes, pot, getting us in a pot. Okay. Question mark. Then, okay, next one. First I'll do one, then I'll do the one connected to Werner. Okay. Oh no, let's do this one first. Okay, Camille, she started working at the Pritikin Longevity Center, really good looking, had an affair, got involved with my dad. Really nice. I liked her. Never saw any problem. She didn't do any drugs, I think. Maybe smoke pot. A few years later, after the whole Werner thing happened, I talked to her, and she said, well, I know Werner's daughters, and it really happened. I'm very certain about that. She was adamant. Okay. Weird connection. I only connected the dots back now. Okay, it's still going to get way crazier. I talked to her a couple years ago when my dad was suffering in bed, and she didn't have any interest in hearing about it. She's a doctor now, living up in Palos Verdes. I'd like to question her about this. How did she know the daughters? Was she involved with the whole hypnotizing them to make them say stuff or paying her off or whatever? Who knows? Let's see. Then we have Vera. Oh, she was the most beautiful. Blonde. Most beautiful. Amazing. Okay. So she got involved with him, even though she was married. And I met her son. I just talked to him a week ago. They live in Alaska, both of them. So, didn't see any problem, but sometime soon after, 1970s, around 1977, a friend of Vera, living up in Palos Verdes, we lived in Palos Verdes. I went to K through 12 with Chuck Norris's sons. Here's our yearbook. I talked about that in one of the other videos and opened up the yearbook. We're all in there. His 2 sons, so that's high school. So I was going to school with them. Then 6th grade, Bruce Lee's son. Bruce Lee had just died a couple years earlier. because he had too many incidents, and he had depression and anxiety, and he was overworking himself, too many incidents from his childhood. And then he took some antidepressant or anti-anxiety drug, Mildol, that was being passed around to all the celebrities, and he died. He got brain swelling. Okay, another interruption. Let's see. So, crazy. This gets crazy. So, Vera. So, um, a friend of hers. Well, back to Bruce Lee for a second. So, Bruce Lee was born in the United States, and then his parents moved to Hong Kong, and then World War II started, and the Japanese, I think, invaded, and so they lived through a genocide. And so the parents get all these incidents, and so because they're seeing it and they're under threat, and then it impacts the infant. Okay, so then, working in Hollywood, too many hours, workaholic, leads to chronic anxiety, and he never got. So I think I skipped over something. So the Rockefeller Foundation did a study in the 1950s. It's in my 100 pages of excerpts, and it said, a professor at University of Colorado at Boulder, they concluded the war has had an impact on people's mental functioning and causing depression, and I'm paraphrasing, all kinds of things and problems. And so we really need to educate the American population about their psychological functioning so that they can deal with it better. Okay, so it never happened. You connect the dots there, or we will in another video. Rockefellers. So, Vera. So, a friend of hers was at the library where my mom was one day at the Palos Verdes Peninsula Center. I was going, and then her mom told her son, who was my age, to go over and make friends with me. So, his name's John. I just talk to him regularly. He's the longest friend I've had. So, go meet that little kid over there and make friends with him. So he did. My mom met her. They exchanged phone numbers. She was there looking into a camp. And so soon after, John and I went to the camp down in San Diego, Del Mar, called the Army and Navy Academy for boys, age 10 to 16 or so, I guess. So we were there for a few days, me and John, 10 or 11 years old. What I remember, I don't think anything bad happened to me because I think I would have some type of residual feeling about the experience. One day he and I went walking nearby, and some kids, older kids, ran into us and gave us marijuana, smoked marijuana with us. Another night, the staff had all the boys. I actually don't think it was me. I think it was just John, and I think for some reason I didn't do it. Okay, they had them go out and do calisthenics in their underwear in the sprinklers at night. Okay, why do you think they do that? So now if you Google the place's name, you'll see that in the last 30 years there've been multiple boys who came forward and said, I was sexually abused by the headmaster or by the staff. Now, the headmaster who ran it for 30 or more years is a Vietnam veteran. I think he's still alive. Not sure. He spent some years in prison. He's a Vietnam veteran, and his job in the Vietnam War was to logistics to deliver fuel from Texas. Okay, so connect the dots there. So then he took over a school where they molest boys. So the attorney that represented the victims, I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he basically, he won with the one case, then it got thrown out. I'm not exactly clear if he ever won, but he said, oh, well, it's just these one or two cases. They seem to be doing some wonderful work there. So kind of got swept under the rug. The same attorney was dealing with the case of the USC professor that abused hundreds of women and multiple other big cases. Anyway, let's see, back to that. So we went to their, now 50 years later, my friend John, his sister, this will be interesting. So his sister is really high up at the New York Times, one of their top attorneys, who polices and fires people if they say anything about what's going on there. Okay, you can find her, Charlotte Behrendt, Behrendt. So his other sister, she's one of the top people at, what's it called? International Rescue Committee, which supposedly helps refugees from all kinds of wars, except the people that are running it are involved in starting all kinds of wars. So Timothy Geithner, who ran the Federal Reserve, Larry Fink from BlackRock, CEO, a couple executives from Blackstone. I only got part way down the list. Colin Powell used to be there, I think. So what does this all mean? Well, I hope we can continue the conversation. There's a few more crazy things here, but the only way to win is to thoroughly explore the facts. So Werner Erhard used to say that, I went to a few of his events. Let's see, I went to the one where Jerry Brown was there. I'm sure you remember that one in LA. Was it at the Ambassador? Yeah, then I went out front on a break, and then out a side door, and Jerry Brown came out, and we exchanged a few words. Was Barbara Streisand at that event? I remember another one where she was at. That was where I asked Werner a question. That was probably 10 years after when I first met him. Janet Siegel went over to his house with my dad and myself, to Werner's house, and we cooked a healthy meal. So you met Janet Siegel, Werner. Yeah, one of the harpies. Did Quaaludes with my dad, cocaine, marijuana with me. Okay. Let's see. I called her about my dad a couple years ago when he was suffering. She didn't want to help. Let's see. My friend John, his dad, he worked for Hughes Aircraft in the military, on really, really secret projects. Top secret military projects. Let's see. Anything else critical here? 1978. let's see. So looking through this book here, so my dad was starting up the Pritikin Longevity Center. This rich guy came in and met my dad, David Roberts. He used to be in the military, and came in, invested the money to buy a hotel in Santa Monica on the beach, and that became the Pritikin Longevity Center. My dad brought in the other UCLA doctors, nurses, etc. Added a lot of his ideas about stress and exercise to it. Really, he should have gotten co-founding credit, but within a year they slammed the door and kicked him out of there. So it was the investors. Once they got the whole thing rolling, another military guy. The building they bought was the Casa del Mar, and right before that, it was owned by Synanon. Synanon was a serious, hardcore, abusive, violent cult of a bunch of lunatics that were connecting to at least 10 different super celebrities. You got to read the whole story. After they almost killed somebody with a rattlesnake, and they threatened a bunch of NBC producers that produced a documentary about them, the FBI finally shut them down. My dad somehow met them. He's got the Synanon written in here. The investor might have been connected to them. They got the building at a cut rate, I guess, and then it became the Pritikin program for the next 10 years. Synanon scattered into like the staff. They went and created multiple other groups. A couple of them created an organization called CDU. 78, 98, 20 years later, Paris Hilton ended up there, getting tortured and abused for 1 year there, and then they shipped her off to Utah in a Mormon facility. There's a Mormon connection here. Okay. Bunch of Mormons, okay, where they, the first day, her parents got tricked and convinced to let them drag her away, screaming and yelling like a kidnapping, like a terrorist kidnapping. Then when she got there, they stripped her naked, strapped her down to a table in front of the staff for all kinds of examinations. Then it was, beatings, slappings, stranglings when she misbehaved or tried to escape. Sessions of, insults and screaming and, 10, 20 minutes long forced hugging. Insane lunatic asylum. She escaped twice and was hunted down by the police. Nobody would listen to her. Her parents were just tricked. Now she's on a mission to fix it. She's gone to Congress, the Senate, twice. They wrote a bill that does nothing. And she wrote a whole book about it that I have here. I'm working on joining her mission so we can free all those kids. And the Congress people and senators she's meeting with have been holding hearings since 2008, I think. And they all did nothing. Marsha Blackburn was one of the voters, I think, in the 2008 hearing. George Miller was the congressperson who ran it, and then everybody in Congress voted to do nothing. So, that's the problem. The solution is a group of people coming together, just talk about it. What happened? What happened to you? What happened to you? What happened to you? It can't be any more dangerous than running with the bulls, running with the leaders, saying what's on our mind, having a two-way conversation instead of living in fear. What could go wrong? Okay, things are lining up. I'm not scared of anything. Okay, if you're scared of anything, well, can we talk about it? I can tell you why you don't have to be scared. They're scared. That's why they keep messing things up. Let's see if there's anything else here that I missed. Okay, a few other books to go through. So my dad, got involved with Pritikin. He was at UCLA. He met Norman Cousins, Anatomy of an Illness, Head First, The Biology of Hope. Cancer is caused by toxic stress overload and too many bad emotions. So Norman Cousins had a life-threatening illness.